you are going to take, that is the last topic of the lesson. No, I'm using this one. This mic, it's captured the background sound too much. Laptop mic, so that's why I'm using this one. Okay, the lesson which we are going to take today, that is about the angiosperm diversity, right? Diversity, you can say that how they are categorized, how they are divided, right? So if you remember the previous lesson, in previous lesson we have categorized or we have also divided, right? Into different clades, and 5 clades roundabout we divided. But the main, as I told you, that mainly we divide them into what? The 2 categories, right? What is monocot and dicot? Mono mean 1 and di mean 2. So that angiosperms which contain single cotyledon, right? Which cotyledon means that they have a single leaves-like structure in the seed. And dicotyledon mean dicot mean that they angiosperms which seed contains dicotyledon, mean 2 cotyledon, right? So mean that they have 2 leaves-like structure. Like if you look to the seed of the bean, right? So it is what seed of the bean. It look like 2 clips, right? 2 leaves. It's like in this shape. But if you look to the seed of the wheat or corn, so it will have what? It will have 1 leaf. So there is the difference. While scientific classification best reflect the evolutionary relationship among the flowering plant, many people who work with the plants, for example, farmer, gardeners, and forester, tends to categorize angiosperms using more convenient method. Now, if you are going to categorize the angiosperms, right? So you cannot categorize it as good as a farmer, as a forester, as a gardener are going to classify it, right? Besides this, we will do it on the scientific base. But those people who are related to this field, like a farmer, like a forester, right, like a gardeners, they will know better about these things, their seeds, their plants, their entire life. So they will know better. Angiosperms are often grouped according to the number of their seed leaves, the strength and composition of their stem, and the number of growing season they have, right? So angiosperms are divided based on the 3 main categories. What are the 3 main categories on which they are, the 3 main characteristics on which they are categorized? So first, that is the number of, the first and most important is what? The number of leaves in the seed. They are monocot or dicot. This is the first important property. The second property, which is the most important, the strength of the composition of the stem. Like their stem is hard, soft, it's woody, it's herbaceous. Which type of stem it has, right? Second point, that is important. Third point is that the number of growing season they live, right? Like for example, they are growing in 1 month, 2 months, 2 days, 5 days, or 1 year, 2 year, 3 years times, right? How much time they live. So mostly we have annual plants, right? Starting from annual plants. Annual and then biennial and perennial. So that we have. The first point, okay, naturally these categories can overlap. They can overlap with each other. An iris, for example, is a non-woody plant. It has a single seed leaf and it may live for many years. If you look to iris plants, if you think from common sense, right? So we are saying that those plants which do not have wood, which are herbaceous, so they cannot stay for long, right? But if you look here, the iris plant, so that is a herbaceous plant. This is not a woody plant. This is non-woody plant, and it can live for many years, right? So the property can naturally it can overlap. The first point which we are going to take that is about monocot and dicot. Monocot and dicot. You can explain it. I think we explained it better before. What is monocot and what is dicot?
Mono has one, while I has two. Dicot has two.
What it has two and what it has one. What is the difference between monocot and dicot? Angiosperms are divided basic into two categories, monocot and dicot. Basic categories, right? It is based on what? It is based on the shape of the seed, the nature of the seed, right? So if you look to monocot, mono mean one, di mean two, and cot mean cotyledons. Cotyledon means leaves, leaf-like structure. So those angiosperms which seed contain or which seed have one cotyledon or having one leaf-like structure, that is called monocot. Right? Example we have. What are the examples for the monocotyledons? Here we have. Example for monocot we have rice, corns, wheat, right? Orchid, lilies, these are the example of monocots, right? On page number 652 you have. Now what about the dicot? So dicot are those angiosperms which has a seed and they have two cotyledons, mean they have two leaves like structure. The most common one you have that is, we have more, right? We have more cotyledon, like around about 75% of all the angiosperms contains 75. All the angiosperm contain 75% of them are dicotyledon, right? Or we can say EU dicot, EU dicot. And the example, if I can give you, so the example bean is an example, right? Bean, if you look to the seed of the bean, so that has a two cotyledon, right? Down we have this example, we will see. If you look down to the figure.
Good morning, Mr.
Yes, Kazim?
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning. Why you are late?
Because I was busy doing stuff.
Okay. So now if you look to figure 22.2, right, which is on page number 653. So they give you monocot, dicot, their seed, their leaves, their flowers, stem and roots, mean all the parts of their plant body is here, right? So you will see its classification, you will see its similarity and differences. Angiosperms may turn monocot or dicot based on the number of seed leaves or cotyledons they have produced, right? So the point which I already explained. Although we no longer classify both as a scientific group, the term is still useful. Scientific terms, we are not using monocot and dicot now, right? Yesterday in the previous lesson, I told you that now it's classified into 5 different categories, right? But still, monocot and dicot is useful term, right? For better understanding, it is there still. Monocot and dicot differ in characteristics such as distribution of vascular tissues. So the difference, what is the difference? Now we are coming to 5 difference mainly, right? That how the arrangement of vascular tissues are occurring, vascular bundles are occurring. What are vascular bundles? Xylem and phloem, which bring the distribution of water and minerals and food in the angiosperm bodies, right? Next one, roots. What is the difference and similarity in their roots? What is the differences and similarity in their leaves? And what is the similarity and differences in their flowers? Monocot include plants such as corn, wheat, lilies, orchid, and palms, right? So these are the examples of what? These are the example of the monocot. Monocot grasses, especially wheat, corn, and rice, have important distinction of being the first plant to be cultivated in a mass quantity for food. If you look to the wheat, corn, rice, right? So it's the main source today for food. Maize, it's corn, we have wheat, we have rice. These are the main source of food. What do they eat? Mostly we are eating rice and bread. Rice and bread. Bread comes from wheat. And rice, that's rice. So most of the portion of food is covered by what? By the monocot. And these were the first plant which was cultivated for the source or the reason of food. Dicot include roses, clovers, tomatoes, oaks, and daisies, right? So these are the example of dicot. Now, classification of monocot and dicot. Diagrammatically, you can see, right? They give you monocot, they give you dicots, both. It's 5 different properties. That what is the similarity, or which type of seed it have, which type of leaves it has, which type of flower it have, which type of stem it have, and which type of root it has. So now you can see, right, the seed first, which is on the base of which we give name to the monocot or dicot, right? On the base of which we can give name to the monocot or dicot. So that is what? That is the seed. If you look to the seed of the monocot, so it has a single cardinal, right? One leaf-like structure. On the other hand, dicot, it has 2 leaf-like structure, right? So based on the structure of the seed, we are giving name to monocot and dicot. The second property is about the leaves. So if you look to the leaves of the monocots, have you ever seen the leaves of wheat, maize, wheat, corn, rice? It has straight leaves, right? Like in this one, right? So it will has a main, it will has parallel band. It has parallel band. Practically, you can see it, right? On the other hand, if you look to the leaf of a flower, so which type of leaf it have, like this, right? So it has branched vein, right, which is not parallel. If you look to the flower, so the floral parts are the floral parts often in multiple of 3. So if you look to the floral parts of the monocot, so it will be multiple of 3. It will have either 3 floral part, either 6, either 9, either 12 in this way, right? It will be a multiple of 3. But if you look to date of the dicot, so it will be the multiple of 4 or either 5. So mean 4, 5, 8, 10, right? 16. 12, 15, 16, 20. It will come like this. Both the possibilities have. If you look to the stem, so stem and mostly, yes, stem, only stem, right? Roots, it do not have them. So if you look to the stem of the monocot, we are saying that monocot, they will have which type of vascular bundles? They will have the scattered vascular bundles, right? Mean that the xylem and phloem will not be arranged as it is arranged in that of the dicot, right? It will not be arranged as like the dicot. If you look to the dicot, so dicot has a regular arrangement of xylem and phloem, right? These dotted like structures you can see, right? These are what? These are xylem and phloem, right? But if you look at here, so in the monocot, and sorry, in the dicot, it is arranged in a pattern, in a specific pattern. Next point, we have roots. So if you look to the roots of the monocot, it has fibrous roots, right? And if you look to the dicot, so it has taproot, right? Like example, you can see of the taproot and of the fibrous root. It's clear? If you have any type of doubt, any type of question, so you can. Okay, the next point. We say in the start that it is based on what? Growing season, the last point which we are going to study, right? One point is remaining, the previous one. Woody and herbaceous plant. Yes. Two type of plants we have, right? Angiosperms are divided on the basis of the woodness nature of, you can say in the stem, it is into woody and herbaceous. Herbaceous plants are which? Grasses, right? Which do not have wood. And woody plant, they have wood. Flowering plants can also be subdivided into groups according to the characteristic of their stem, right? So if we look to the flowering plants are herbaceous or woody? Flowering plants. Mm.
Herbaceous.
Flowering plants.
No, normals are right, or even trees. trees.
No, normal flowers. Okay, rose have what? If you look to the rose, right, the base of the rose, so it has what? It has wood, right? One of the most important and noticeable stem characteristic is woodness, right? Woody plants are made primarily of the stems with the thick still wall that support the plant body. So if you look to the woody plants, their still will be thick, right? The woodness is due to what? Which protein we studied in the previous chapter, which is lignin protein, right? Which give the woodness nature to the plant. Woody plants include trees, shrubs, and vines. These are woody plants, right? So it is not important that specific. If you look to the flowers, right? So flower we have different types, right? It can vary. So now if you look to rose, right? If you look to rose, so rose is what? It has woody. It has wood in the stem, right? Yes, in the branches even it has wood, right? But if you look to the other flowers, like which are completely herbaceous, so then they do not have wood, right? Like the small seasonal flowers which we are growing, like for 6 months, for 3 months, for 4 months, they do not have. Shrubs are typically smaller than trees, and vines have a stem that are long and flexible, right? If you look to the shrubs, so their stems, they are typically smaller than the trees, right? But their stem are flexible up to some extent, not too much, but up to some extent. Plant stem, they are smooth and non-woody, are characteristic of the herbaceous plant. So that stem which is non-woody, right, and which is smooth, which is soft, that is herbaceous. Mostly all the grasses that are wet, that are herbaceous. Herbaceous plants do not produce wood as they grow. With the passage of time, as they are growing, so they will not produce wood. Example of herbaceous plant include dandelions, zinnias, petunias, and sunflower, right? So these are the example of the herbaceous plant. But beside this, all the grasses, right? All the grasses that are the example of herbaceous plant, right? Those which do not have wood. Okay. Now, next we have on the seasonal base. What are the seasonal base, right? Seasonal base plant. Okay. How many plants we have based on the season division? If you look at the name seasonal, right? On the seasonal base, they give you three: annual, biennial, and perennial. These three categories, right? But we have another category which are seasonal plants, right? Like in the summer, mostly in the spring. If you look in the spring, so there are a lot of seasonal plants which just grow for around about 3-4 months and then they die. Mostly in the shrubs or small flowers. These are for 3 months or 4 months. Just only in the spring season. If you have ever planted a garden, you know that many flowering plants grow flowers and die in a single year, right? So that will come in a one season or season plants. Or we can also say it annual plant, for which occurs in the cycle of one year. Other type of plants continue to grow from year to year. It might take 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. The lifespan of plant is determined by the combination of genetic and environmental factors. So the lifespan, that if it is from 6 months to 1 year, from 1 year to 2 years to 4 years, it will be determined by what? It will be determined by genetic factor as well as the environmental condition and environmental influence. I always told you in chemistry and in biology, environmental factors are most important, right? It can influence any chemical process and it can influence any biological process, right? It can influence anytime, anywhere. Like for example, just take the example of human. This time here we have more cool, right? This year we have more cool. Before we are not having cool. Like it is almost the second month and we are facing the low temperature. Right? Before it was just for 15 or 20 days and then no. But this time, so this is what our life, we have our life, right? So it's related to biology. But environmental condition influence our life. It's change our life. So always biology will be affected. It will be influenced by the environment. Yeah, right? Because I came here and back in 2017, December 2017. At that time, when I compare the temperature at that time, the climates at that time, it was completely different. This is just 4 years now, and now it's too much cool. So with the passage of time, it's going, and this we count into global warming. The change of global warming is occurring. Many long-lived plants continue growing despite yearly environment and fluctuations. However, harsh environmental condition can shorten the lifespan of the other plants. So this is one environmental condition which can influence the life of what? Which can influence the life of a plant. Not even plants, all organisms. The characteristic of the three categories of plant lifespans, annually, biennial, and perennial. It is summarized in the figure. You can see 22 to 23. You have here, right? You have three type of plant is given there, right? Lifespan is given there, characteristic are given there, and example are given there, right? If you look to the annual plants, they plant which have maximum age of 1 year, maximum age of 1 year, right? So they have just 1 year lifespan, and that it will start life, it will mature, and it will die out, right? Characteristic grow from the seed to maturity, flowers produce, right? That, and in that year it will finish. Example you have biennial, those plants which have maximum lifespan of 2 years, right? So in the 2 year, in the first year, what will happen? In the second year, what will happen, right? The first year sprout and grow very short stem, right? And sometimes even leaves. In the second year, grow a new stems and leaves. Flower produce seed and then it's die. In the first year, it will just grow a little bit. In the second year, it will get mature and it will produce flower and seed there, and then it will die. Again, same in the 2 years. Examples you can see. Third one, we have perennial plants. So those plants which have age more than 2 years, right? Perennial. Most have woody stems. So perennial plants, they are mostly woody plants, right? Like if you look the previous chapter, previous lesson we studied conifers. So it has very too much life it has, right? Like up to hundreds of years it has life. Some have herbaceous stem that die each winter and are replaced in the spring. So some of them they have herbaceous stem, right? Some plants, desert plant we have, some small plant we have in this, right? Which can even last for up to 3 years or 4 years. But we have some plants which are woody plants, so it can stay for long. Right? So that was the lesson for today. If you have any question, you can ask me. Now we will move to the workbook. Do you have workbooks? Chapter 22? 22. Yes. You have workbook? Take page. Page we have 342. Page 342 in your workbook. 342. Some statement which you have. So this time in the exam, it will not be as like the previous one, right? In the previous one, you were just marking true and false. This time, you haven't have the proper exam, right? Because you were online the previous. So this time, it will be. You have to, if you have a statement such like this, question 1 to 8, write true if the statement is true. If the statement is false, change the underlying word or group of words to the statement to make the statement correct, right? So that you have to do. Question 1, you have both grasses and mosses are example of plants, so that is absolutely fine. That's true. 2, green algae are now considered to be protest. No, green algae are not going to be considered as protest. Now they are considered to be as plants. Why? So we have a few reasons for them, right? If you look, the first reason, they perform the process of photosynthesis, right? If you look to the second reason, so some of their insectors belong to plant. And the third, the most important reason they have, that if you look to their genome, if you study their genome, right? If you study their DNA, so they have more resemblance with the plant as compared to that of their protists. 3, we have most plants are either parasite or spores. No, not most. Most plants will be photosynthetic. A few or a very little number of plants that will be parasites. 4, in a plant, chlorophyll A and B are located in the chloroplast. So yes. Beside oxygen, plants need water, carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. What plant need? Plant need sunlight, carbon dioxide, water and nutrient for the photosynthesis. Plants require oxygen for the cellular respiration, right? So yes, inside the body, it's need oxygen. 7, land plants evolve with a structure that promotes water loss, that limit, right, or that reduce water loss. 8, we have plants usually take in water and mineral through their leaves, so through their roots, right? Through their leaves, transpiration will occur, right? It will leave. Question 9 to 12, you have the insector of land plants live in water. The oldest fossil of the land plants are roughly 422 million year old. The greatest challenge faced by early land plant was obtaining water. Early land plants obtained enough water because they grew close to the ground and the damp places. Question 13, describe why biologists now classify green plant and green algae as a plant. So in MCQ, in the true and false, I already explained that it has 3 reasons. Green algae have cell wall and photosynthetic pigment identical to those of the plants, mean it's doing photosynthesis as like the plant. They also have a reproductive cycle similar to those of the plants. Second difference, finally, studies of the genome of the green algae suggest that they are a part of the plant kingdom. So this is third one is the most important, right? That their genome or the molecular study, it has resemblance with the plants. Sorry? Yes. 14, you have described 3 characteristics of the plant that help them meet the demands of the life on the land. So more resistant to drying rays of the sun, capable of conserving water, more capable of reproducing without water. So just write it when you finish, tell me so I can go down to the next question. We will stop here at this point. When you finish this, you tell me. We have a few minutes, but it's okay. Sorry? No, just we'll stop here. That's enough. Okay. We have 5-6 minutes, so. Sorry? No, it's not there till now, but I'll try to upload it. 48.